All right, so we're gonna just do a short little lecture here on Orpheus and Eurydice. But these partly because this is one of my favorite myths, if I'm being honest, and partly because I think this has a very rich tradition. The Orpheus Eurydice myth does. And so I want to look at this, like I said, be quite short. So Orpheus is the son of one of the muses, Calliope, of a Thracian prince. His mother, one of these muses, who is the muse of music, gives him this gift of music. Basically, he is the most melodious and best musician. He's able to play the lyre, but he also sings the most beautifully. And what's interesting is his song can tame wild animals, um, and also really makes people, like particularly women, fall in love with him. Um, but not in like, but in a way that, um, you know, yeah. But yeah, so it makes women fall in love with him, but it's not something that he misuses, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. He does sail, if we remember, he does sail with Jason and the Argonauts um, in to grab the Golden Fleece. And it's actually on this journey, the big role that he plays on this journey is that as Jason and the Argonauts pass the sirens, he is able to save the hero from the sirens' song with his own song. But Orpheus is really just a minor character in in the Argonautica, and it's really his story, his association with Eurydice, the woman, his lover, and the woman, yeah, his lover, where we, yeah, that's the myth that's most associated with him. So Eurydice is a woman. There, we don't really know a lot about her, um, but one day, while Eurydice is in the field collecting flowers, a snake bites her foot, and she dies. So this is sort of a common thing, like women in the field. Um, you know, the same as we think about Persephone. When Persephone is abducted by Hades, she's also in a field picking flowers. But yeah, so we have Eurydice here. And actually, I should mention, as we move forward, we're going to sort of see, we're just going to see this. So anyway, so Eurydice collecting flowers in the field, snakes bites her foot, and she dies. When Orpheus finds out that Eurydice has died, he basically decides to try to go into the underworld and try to attempt to basically bring her back. This descent into the underworld is what is called a catabasis. This is an important term, especially in mythology, but definitely in these epics. We see Odysseus go into the underworld as a catabasis. We see Aeneas go into the underworld in Virgil's Aeneid, which we'll talk about when we do the Roman foundation myths. Of course, later in later literature, Dante, of course, goes into the underworld when um, he goes into to hell, to purgatory, but into hell in the Divine Comedy. And so this becomes a common thing that the hero often has to do: descend into the underworld. Um, Once in the underworld, Orpheus begs Hades and Persephone um, to release um, to release Eurydice. At first, Hades is not convinced and is not really willing to let Eurydice go. I mean, of course, Hades' domain is over these souls, and so his willingness to let them go, he doesn't really have, not very often that he lets souls leave, leave his domain. But Orpheus plays he and Persephone a song so beautiful that said that in the myth it even says that it's so beautiful that all of the eternal torments of Hades, so all the people, so yeah, all the eternal torments of Hades cease, and everyone stops and listens to this song because the song is so beautiful. Persephone begs Hades, and Hades basically agrees to let Eurydice go back to the world of the living, with one caveat that Orpheus cannot look at her until they reach the world above. As they are journeying back to the world above, as they're getting near the surface, Orpheus can't take it any longer. He foolishly looks back, and Eurydice's soul is lost forever. It's a short story, but a tragic story. Orpheus, I should say, Orpheus never recovers. When he returns to the earth, he is inconsolable that he has lost Eurydice, and he basically can't function. The women of Thrace, like I mentioned, his song makes women fall in love with him. The women of Thrace are all in love with him, but he despises them all. He only loves Eurydice. Because of his unwillingness to basically to show any affection toward them, the women actually go mad and they rip Orpheus to pieces. They rip Orpheus to pieces, and Orpheus dies. And that's really it. What and I know that's a really short bit, just a couple minutes, but of course I wanted to relate that story. There is actually a wonderful representation of this Orpheus myth. The movie, the Brazilian movie Black Orpheus. I will make that available on the Moodle page, a link to download it, or actually I'll put it on the Google Drive, and so people can download it from the Google Drive. That seems to be the best solution, actually, instead of, but I'll see if I can put a link to it on the Moodle page. I recommend if you have an extra 2 hours and you want to watch a really good movie, it is in Portuguese. There are subtitles to it. And maybe I'll also put a link to a YouTube. If nothing else, I'd like you to watch I'm going to try to link the YouTube just to Orpheus's descent into the underworld from the movie, and so you can at least watch that if you don't have time to watch the whole movie. So that's it for the Orpheus myth. Like I said, short and sweet, and very tragic, very sad. So that's it. So I will catch you next time.